to this online open day. My name is Marjolein Domianse. I have a background in civil engineering and I'm the Vice Dean of Education for Engineering Technology. The University of Twente contributes to a balanced understanding of scientific and technological developments and of their impact on the community and the environment, combining technology, engineering and social sciences in which the impact on people always comes first. We call that high-tech human touch. Our students are active students with an entrepreneurial mindset. If you choose to study here, you will become part of a population of over 80 different nationalities, studying, living and relaxing on our beautiful green campus or in the town of Enschede. We realize that you may have some questions about how the current COVID-19 situation affects your personal situation. Today, we will explain what this means for your application and enrollment process, and we will tell you how we organize our education in this new and unknown situation. In this online open day, we will inform you about different aspects of our bachelor programs. We will tell you about our Twente education model, TOM, in which you will work on real-life challenges. Our students will share their experience of student life in Enschede, and they will tell you how it is to work on projects in multidisciplinary teams, in which you can find which role suits you best, researcher, designer or organizer. And that will help you in the future. Today, a team of staff and students is present to chat with you, live, in a group session or in a one-to-one personal session, to answer all the questions you may have while watching this online open day. They will do their best to help you and get you prepared for your study at the University of Twente. So make full advantage of today, of the program that we offer you, by looking, by listening, but most of all by engaging with staff and students, even though from a distance, because that will help you to make a choice that really fits you well. And that's the most important thing. So we hope to see you in Twente in September and enjoy the program today.
Welcome to the online open day of the University of Twente. My name is Rita.
My name is Dorothee, and our guests in this segment are Ellen, Hidde and Stefan. And together we will give you an impression of what your life might look like if you choose to study here at the University of Twente. We are not alone. We're joined by Mirna. She's our chat room manager, and she's helped by 57 members of our staff and students who all work from home in order to answer all of your questions. You'll meet her in just a few moments, but if you have any questions for our panel members or any other questions, please feel free to ask them as soon as they pop up, and Mirna will try to get your questions to the panel members as soon as she can.
So let's start with the unique profile of the University of Twente. We call our profile high-tech human touch. We have a video to show to you what we mean with this.
What is the right question? You may have asked yourself all kinds of questions all your life. How does this work? What causes this? Is this right? How can we make this better? Or this? How can science and technology really contribute to change? Who do you want to be? How can we develop new materials for a sustainable future and eliminate the use of fossil fuels? Will biomass become the major resource for new fuels and chemicals? How can we store gigawatts of solar energy in the smart grid? How can we create a safer society and realize smart cities? Will big data protect or invade our privacy? If your smartphone becomes a supercomputer, what's next? Will machines take over Or can robots become our best friends? What if our average age becomes 130? Will our homes then be future hospitals? How can we develop therapy that is less invasive? Will light enable breakthroughs in life sciences? And will technology help our body to heal itself? Can we mimic human life on a chip and create new life? What is quality of life, and who's responsible for it? It all starts with curious minds, people who do not take things for granted, who explore crossovers between various scientific areas, crossovers between technology, design, art, and philosophy. Focus and connection. That's what it's all about. Science and technology are changing the world. But is change always a good thing? How can we find answers that most people will benefit from? Can you imagine how great a nanoparticle can be? Can we design social impact? How can high tech battle poverty? How can we have too little and yet far too much water? How do we turn scientific results into new business? Are you prepared for a job that doesn't exist yet? What can you contribute? How can nature inspire us? Will Earth be our only home? Is every answer possible? Is there more? Innovation is about the future of our society. It is about realizing ideals and improving quality of life for all of us. What do you expect from science?
And what do you think society expects?
All those questions. Are you ready for finding answers?
The most entrepreneurial university.
Hidde, let's start with you. How have you personally experienced high-tech human touch and what that means here?
Well, interesting to know is I'm studying international business administration, which is not really a technical study, quite a technical university. And I find the high-tech human touch approach quite a lot in my program. Right now I'm doing an elective, which means that I can choose a program to my liking to just orient and broaden my knowledge. And I'm working together for a project with business and IT, which is a completely technical study. And in that way, I'm connecting my, high-tech side with my human touch side.
Do you have a specific example of how you apply high-tech human touch then in a project or?
Well, a good example might be within the IBA program that I'm doing, where we had a project to help a local company that wanted to get more visitors to their farm, which is a very human-like approach. It's about marketing, it's about experiencing something. And the approach was do it with digital marketing. And that's something completely new to me, which is very high tech, which is changing every single day. And strangely enough, throughout the project, suddenly Corona jumped in, COVID-19, and the project was turned around 180 degrees. And our project became of fundamental importance to that company. And to see what technology can do for a company, for people that work there, that's the high-tech human touch for me.
Great. You mentioned that you have a lot of diversity and a lot of own choice. Is this connected to the challenge-based type of learning that you do? Is that you can really dig into a topic of your choice and learn a lot in just a few weeks?
Yeah.
How do you benefit from that?
Well, it's actually the reason why I chose to study at this university. So in high school, I was terrible at doing my homework. I still am, which might explain why my study is taking a little bit longer than expected. And I noticed that I need to see the bigger picture. I need to see how I can implement my knowledge. I need to know what I can do with it. And project-based learning helped me in high school and is now helping me at university to be motivated to solve problems from real life, from actual companies and organizations, and to study for myself, to do some research and broaden my knowledge.
Stefan, I saw you nod when he said I was terrible at doing homework. Were you terrible at doing homework when you were growing up?
I'm not going to answer that question.
Okay.
But,
No comment.
but I like the comment of Hidde. I mean, there's a lot of people actually. Well, I don't need to do homework because I get good grades anyway, or I need to. Well, it's not fun, or it's not. The challenge is getting sort of people focused on their personal interest. I mean, if you tune in to what is their personal ambition, their personal driver for whatever they do, that's just what Hidde said. That is when they will start. Students, not only students, we as humans start working. I mean, that's when you start learning and when you start engaging with material, with colleagues, with fellow students. So in that sense, that's what my primary reaction was to Hidde's comment, because we don't only want students who are bad at doing their homework, of course, but we want people who are actually have the ambition to get the most out of themselves. And that is an important thing, I think.
And how do you make sure that you make use of their talents and that you help them grow as people as well as academics?
There's a lot of aspects in that, and I cannot name them all. But of course, it starts with offering what appeals to them. That's what Hidde mentioned. But also listening to what they want. Just asking. So, where is your learning challenge? What do you need? What do you need to develop as an academic? And then, if you are able to, besides the fixed part of the curriculum every program has, use the space. To let people develop in their own talents. And it requires communication, it requires engagement, discussing with students, and not only we as teachers thinking, well, what should we educate you with, but what do you need to learn? And sort of that personal approach is something we see a lot happening here. And whether that is in a personal one-to-one or whether that's in a project group, there's different ways of doing that, but that is one of the key elements in academic education.
We will address that later, but for now we'll switch to the chat room because Mirna has a question from someone about the educational model. But first, let's introduce Mirna. Hello, Mirna. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
Good. Is it still as crowded as it was?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have quite a few people tuning in already, and they're sharing where they're from. So we have people joining us from all over the world, which is really nice to see.
Great. You have a question.
Yeah, actually, Stefan was already explaining a little bit about how the education looks like. But someone is asking, or Ariba is asking, can you explain a little bit more about the Twente education model?
Stefan.
I can do that, but maybe Ellen can do that. So how do you experience the education? Because I can do the formal story, but maybe you can...
Yeah, well, it's almost what Hidde just told.
Yeah.
It's about implementing the knowledge you gain during a module directly into a project, so you see the bigger picture and how that knowledge is used.
How long does such a project take?
One project is most of the time about 10 weeks. So there are 4 modules a year with about 10
So
weeks.
within 10 weeks you start with some theory, some theoretical knowledge that you need to have, and then implementing that knowledge or putting that into practice.
Yeah, that's
within
right.
10 weeks.
Yeah, but you start in the first week with the project already, and at first you notice you don't really know where you're going and what to do, but within a few weeks you know exactly where you're going to, and you notice that you've learned a lot in just a few weeks.
And you have to work together, I guess, with other students?
Yes, it's always with other students. Sometimes.
Have you amazed yourself at what you apparently are able to do within 10 weeks?
Yes, I have.
So you like it then?
Yeah, a lot. It worked for me a great deal, yeah.
Do you have an example?
So I find it hard to start working on things I don't really understand. But because you work on a project immediately and take small steps into implementing it, it's easier to get started and to get to know how to get started.
Hit it?
Yeah, I fully recognize it. I just had a phone call with the company that is doing the project with us, this module. And we honestly told them 3 weeks ago, we had no clue where to start. And we just dove in, just started doing things. And for some reason, it's going very well now. The project is right on track. The company is liking what we're doing. But I can completely relate to you. It's very difficult sometimes.
Another question from the chat room.
Yeah, some of our students are wondering what's the difference between UT and Delft and Eindhoven, for example?
Ooh, anyone who can compare based on experience?
Well,
Or from what you hear from other people?
I can tell something about how I chose to go here, because I started with industrial design engineering, and those are also offered in Delft and Eindhoven. And for me, in Eindhoven, that was offered in a completely different way that didn't really appeal to me. So that was not an option for me from the start. And then I was in doubt between Delft and Enschede.
Which is interesting, because you swore when you were younger that you would never go to Twente.
Yeah, I did.
So what convinced you the most?
I think the small scale.
All right.
Because I went to Delft to the open day and there were loads and loads of people. And with the student for a day program, I wasn't the only one going there. There were 60 people with me. So it was way more personal coming here, and I liked the ambience of it and the personal interaction between students and teachers.
Well, now you even help organizing our open days, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so you're in charge of the personal approach and the atmosphere during the open days. Yeah.
Stefan, can you add something about the differences?
I think, well, add maybe stress a little bit more. I mean, the small scale, Ellen mentioned that. That makes it possible, that creates possibilities to do a lot more than just only study. I mean, you want a student to not only learn a topic, to read a book or study a book and do an exam and sort of finish, but develop as an academic professional in itself. What I always do, and I keep in mind, and of course that's a little bit further away with a starting bachelor student than an advanced master student, but I always sort of see our own students as our future colleagues, and that can be next year. I mean, and Rita actually mentioned that students are involved in everything, whether it's organizing open days like these, whether it's education, whether it's student teams, the solar team, the green team who developed the hydrogen car, the drone team, whether they do a board membership or whether they organize the central kick-in. I mean, there's loads of opportunities to develop outside your own curriculum. And that's the last thing, and then I'm going to leave the word. There's one thing which I find very important. I mean, we educate students by offering them education. So education is for the students, and that's what everyone knows. That's what we do in elementary school, high school, university. What I find very important is that students are, and it ties in with that sort of future colleague idea, that we do teaching with the students. So they and we are partner in their learning process. And in a later phase, when they're sort of advanced, and the philosophy is if you can teach someone else, you really know the subject, sort of involve them in the teaching, have them sort of help us teach topics as student assistants, as supervisors. And I think that is sort of a thing where we are quite a long way, I'm not going to say ahead, but we've developed that up to a high level. And the small scale really helps in that perspective.
Now we don't only have Dutch students, we have over 80 different nationalities on campus. Is this approach, is that new to a lot of international students, do you think?
It's different, but it's just like we would go abroad, that we would experience different cultures and bringing different cultures together. But I think, I mean, I'm from a, we don't have too many foreign students in our program, but maybe one of the other two students can comment on what they've experienced with intercultural relations, because that is something which is really worth experiencing.
It's very interesting. It's just very interesting to get to know different cultures, whether it's on a formal way or in an informal way, because it's just very interesting to know what people have for breakfast in Iran compared to here in the Netherlands. That's just day-to-day talk that you can have with fellow students.
So it's much more intercultural than international.
Yeah, that's a very good way to put it. To be honest, I don't even think about the different nationalities that people have. I'm working together with a project group with 2 international students. I don't know which nationality they have.
And they all speak English.
But they speak English. We're one big community working together, so it doesn't really matter. But at the same time, we're learning from each other. We're learning the different ways of working, the different cultural aspects of making agreements within a group, for example.
What was the one thing that struck you most working with international students?
That's very difficult to put. Honestly, I don't have one thing that now pops to mind. I always have the example of making an appointment with people and then the difference in dealing with getting in time. For me, saying 3 o'clock is 3 o'clock, so I'm there 5 minutes before 3. But for other students, I've noticed that 3 o'clock is just sometime-ish. So if you're going to be there 15 minutes later, not so much of a problem. And I'm, as a Dutchie, I'm sitting there like, I'm waiting.
We have another question from the chat room.
Yeah, thank you. So I think some students are trying to put the Twente education model and the fact that we have modules into their perspective, since they might be a bit more used to semesters. So someone is curious, since the UT doesn't have a semester system, writing exams after the semester, how do exams at UT actually, what do they look like? So when do students sit exams?
Ellen?
So it differs between the different courses. Sometimes you have an exam within 1 week. Sometimes it takes 10 weeks before you have the exam. But it's at the point that you have the knowledge to do the exam, so it depends. Sometimes it's split into 2, so you have one after 3 weeks and one after 6.
So it does make sense, the way sometimes a bit early in the process and sometimes a bit later.
Yeah, sometimes it's necessary to train that knowledge earlier in the process by studying for the exam, I think.
How do you experience the small scale in a sense of the way you communicate with each other? Stefan just gave an example of what I interpret as seeing each other as equals and as colleagues, and relying on feedback from all directions to improve what we can do together. How do you experience this in everyday life? Because traditionally, there's this image of universities where there's professors and there's students and there's a distance. And how do you experience this?
Well, I think here it's equal. And you notice that with most of the teachers, I'm on a first name basis, and they introduce themselves with their first name. And it's easy to just walk in to ask your questions to their office. Well, if they don't have time, you can always make an appointment for a different moment. But everyone's happy to help, and yeah, I think that really works.
So you really feel supported within your program?
Yes, I do. It's a very personal approach. So if I have a problem with anything, I almost always also know where to go with that problem.
Okay. It seems like the best way to improve education is if everyone just tells each other what they need in every direction. Okay. Thank you all very much for your contributions.
Thank you.
In this segment. The next segment will be before you get here and when you get here. We'll be back in a few moments. Welcome back. These are two segments, before you get here and when you get here, and we're combining the two with 4 guests: Akash, Claudia, Leonie and Lisanne.
Yeah, but first of all, we start with the application and enrollment process because you have to go through that before you can study here. We have a nice animation to show you.
After some explorating, you have finally decided which program you want to follow. Congratulations! You are now just a small step away from studying at the University of Twente. This video will explain the steps you need to take for your application. You can apply, even if you have not completed your degree yet. For example, if you are nearing the end of your bachelor's but already want to apply for a master's. Make sure you start applying on time, because different application deadlines apply to different types of applicants. You can find these deadlines on our website. Step 1. Find out if you are admissible. To start with your application, you first need to check whether you meet the requirements for your study program. These can be found on the webpage of the program of your choice. Completing the eligibility check is mandatory for all international students. If you are an upcoming bachelor student, you can skip this step. Step 2. Start your application with StudyLink. If you meet the program's requirements, you can start the online application procedure. You can apply for a study program via the website StudyLink. Step 3. Upload the necessary documents in Osiris. After filing your application via StudyLink, you receive an email with login credentials for the Osiris application with which you can upload your documents. We have prepared example documents to help you out. Step 4. Assessing your application. After you have submitted the documents, the admissions committee will assess your application. It may take some time before you hear whether you have been admitted. If everything has been submitted correctly, it normally takes 2 weeks before a decision has been made. If we require further information from you during the application process, we let you know. If you receive no further communication from us, this means that we have all the information we need to assess your application. Step 5. Decisions on admission. After the assessment, the outcome will be one of the following 3 possibilities. The first, you are accepted and will receive an email with which you can confirm your application. The second, you are conditionally accepted. This means that you do not yet comply with all requirements. The correspondence sent to you will explain what action you need to undertake for final admission. A common example is having to send your bachelor's certificate while you are still completing your bachelor's degree. And the third, your application is rejected. The reason for rejection will be sent to you by email. Step 6. Accept offer of admission. Have you been admitted? Great! Now you will be asked to accept the offer of admission that will be placed in your Osiris account. After your acceptance, which does not mean that you are obliged to go to University of Twente, the university will process your application. At this point, you can take the next steps, such as planning your trip to the Netherlands, arranging your visa, and finding accommodation in Enschede. Please know that if you need support in this process, you can contact our Student Services Contact Center via phone, email, and live chat. You can also find a detailed step-by-step guide of the application process on our website.
Well, Claudia, this of course was the application and enrollment process under normal circumstances. Yes. Is there something changed because of the COVID-19 situation?
Yes, the application deadline, we have deferred it to the 1st of June instead of the 1st of May for all bachelor, non-European, bachelor, master and exchange students. And we have also deferred our deadline for the offer of admission, to accept the offer of admission for non-European bachelor, master and exchange students to the 12th of June instead of the 1st of June. So they have still opportunity to make an online application.
Do you see a lot of concerns that students or upcoming students have a lot of concerns, maybe about their diploma or?
Sometimes, but you can already apply online even though you haven't received your bachelor certificate yet, because you will need your bachelor certificate or your graduation statement before the 1st of September. Then we do need these documents because we are bound by Dutch law to have these in our possession to finalize your enrollment. But for applying online, it's not necessary yet.
And what if it's hard to get the actual certificate in time because of COVID-19?
We do need them before the 1st of September. If you cannot supply your graduation statement mentioning the date you graduated before the 1st of September, and your title and final transcript, if you cannot supply them, we cannot finalize your enrollment, unfortunately. Then you have the option to defer to February if there's a February start, or to September next year. Yes.
So all the information that you do have is on the website?
Yes, we keep.
You're updating it.
Yes.
As you find out more yourself.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Akash, how did you find your transfer to the Netherlands? You're from India.
Yeah. So at the time there was no COVID, so it was a smooth transition. But then you do have to take into consideration that you do have to abide by the deadlines which the university mentions, and especially when it comes to stuff like housing and. To get a house, you do need to adhere to the strict deadlines when you have to apply for a house and what kind of house you do have to apply for. If you follow all those rules, it's pretty you won't have a problem with it. On getting here, it was a smooth transition because of the kick-in. Because the kick-in is one of the largest parties and one of the largest introduction periods which the university holds for a week. And so that's where you get to know you get to meet new people, you get to know your faculty, you get to arrange your timetable and your academics. So you hit the ground running when university starts. So nice. It was a smooth transition.
I'm sure we'll get back to that. First, there's a question from the chat room.
Yeah, I think for those students who are planning on coming in September, they are quite curious, what will the study start look like in September? And are there going to be any changes because of the COVID-19 situation?
Yeah, we do have, we have asked the same question to the president of our executive board, Victor van der Scheijs. We have a video we can show you right now.
To the University of Twente, you will feel immediately the personal approach. That is, we call each other by our first name. Let's see how Victor responds to that. I'm here outside of his office. He is the president of the executive board of the University of Twente. Hi Victor, can you please tell us what the students should expect when they come and arrive in September here to the University of Twente?
The honest answer is that we do not know precisely what we're going to do because developments are obviously continuing. But what you can expect from us as best university of technology in the Netherlands, that we will do our utmost best and offer an interesting program, partly online, but as much as possible also on campus, very personal, very direct, lots of interaction.
Could you tell us, you as a university, how are you responding to such a rapid changes?
Obviously there is a lot of improvisation and that is all fine. We are a relatively small university with a lot of creativity, a lot of entrepreneurship, and we just take it from what we encounter. So we solve everything to the best of our ability. Everybody is extremely committed and obviously what students can expect when we are here is that we once again will do whatever we can to make a really interesting program.
Victor, this is the last question. Can you please tell us what are the lessons learned?
Well, one of the things that we clearly learned when the corona situation developed in the Netherlands is that we could switch very quickly from a full campus mode to a full digital mode. Only 1 week. That was with a lot of creativity, a lot of improvisation. And one of the things that we learned, and that actually is also very much our slogan, it's high-tech human touch. We are capable of really improvising and doing stuff that we thought we would not be capable of. The human factor, also at the University of Technology, is really important.
Well, thank you very much for your answers and your time, Victor. I think we all know enough.
My pleasure. Goodbye.
If you have any questions about this, then also the chat box is available to you, which we are switching to because there's an update from Mirna.
Yeah, thank you. I can see that a lot of people from different countries are joining us, which is really nice. And we see also that there is quite a large group of Dutch students joining us, actually. So we do see some discussions going on in Dutch, but we would like to encourage everyone to stick to English as much as possible, since we have a lot of international students and colleagues helping us out in the chat. If you do want to ask your specific questions in Dutch, there's also the opportunity, of course, to do that in a one-on-one chat.
Okay. Any surprising questions so far?
Well, let me check. I think they're quite regular questions, I would say.
Do they mostly stay on the topics that we're on?
Yeah, pretty much, I would say. Although there are some questions regarding the kick-in, which I think you will still address in this session, and also in how relevant it is to know Dutch to study here or to work here.
Okay, we'll address the second one now, and then we'll go to the kick-in, and then can we come back to you for the other questions about the kick-in?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. See you in a bit. Okay, first, how important is it to speak Dutch? Akash,
Well,
hoe gaat het met jou? Do you speak Dutch?
It's quite important, but yeah, I've started learning Dutch now.
Nice.
I'm halfway through my Dutch training, but I really am afraid of the exam, which is in 2 weeks. But yeah, I think it's an added bonus if you know how to speak in Dutch, because it is the Netherlands. The language with everyone usually converses is in Dutch, and it so happens that most of the UT has a lot of international students, but it so happens that some of the departments and branches of engineering, they are a majority of Dutch students. So when it comes down to working in groups and working with other Dutch students, it does help a bit to try and understand what they're trying to tell you.
Yeah, so academically you can do everything in English here, but socially it will be an advantage.
Yeah, it's always a good thing to know a bit of Dutch.
All right, thank you. We have questions about the kick-in. So, Lisanne, you're the kick-in expert. What is the kick-in?
Well, the kick-in is the introduction period for our new students. And actually, it's the biggest, or actually the longest introduction period of the Netherlands, of which we're famous. And it's for a lot of students, maybe even the best time of their lives, where they meet so much new people and they learn a lot about Enschede, about the UT, and everything you need to know before you start your student life. So yeah, that's the kick-in.
And it's
short. Oh, sorry.
It's completely organized by students, right?
Yes, yes, completely organized by a kick-in committee of 6
Quite a
students.
responsibility.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Short reaction from Akash. What is your best memory from the kick-in?
Oh, my best memory from the kick-in was there was a treasure hunt in the city which they had organized. So that was one of the really good things where I really got to know people from my group and got to know how committed they are to finding a solution to stuff. So yeah, there were also a lot of other good memories, and one really beneficial thing for us that the faculty day, where I got to understand how to plan out my timetable, and I knew which classes to go to, and I knew where to go, most importantly. So
yeah, Leonie, maybe you can add some to that. There's also the practical things that you learned during the kick-in. Can you give us a few examples?
Absolutely. So yeah, the last part of the kick-in is really, directed to inform the students about the start of their studies. For example, what's my timetable? How do I know where I should go for my first lecture? How and where can I buy my books? And also, we show students the many different educational computer systems that we use in order, for the education. So students will be fully familiarized with everything they need to know, when they start studying. Yes.
Let's see what the questions in the chat room are. Mirna, about the kick-in.
I think students are really curious whether the kick-in will be cancelled or will be held digitally and what that will look like.
Lisanne?
Unfortunately, the kick-in won't take place as it usually takes place. The kick-in committee is looking into options to organize it completely digitally. They are going to make sure that all information will be available digitally. And next to that, there might be some possibilities to organize physical events, small scale, here on the university. Because we have this great, big campus, we might be able to organize some things physically, and we really hope we can.
Normally students, if they want to join the kick-in, they have to pay some kind of fee, I would say. Is that the same amount as usual? Now it's a totally different event?
Yeah, the cost will be way lower, I think. It depends a bit on which activities we can organize, but I think the cost will be around 10 euros and not more. So that's not that much, actually.
Do you have any ideas on how you're going to contain the magic of the real thing?
Well, one thing that really helps, I think, is that we will keep the system of the do groups. A do group is a group of new students who are connected to each other with a do group parent, and a do group parent is an older student, and they will show the new students around. And the do group members or your do group brothers and sisters, actually, they will actually become your friends. I'm still in contact with more than half of my do group, I think. So that's really something, actually, and really helps to make friends at the beginning.
So the personal connection is one thing that for sure you will maintain.
Yes, yes. That's, I think, the most important.
You decided to not live on campus. You did. What's the great benefit for you of living in the city?
Well, it's maybe a bit the atmosphere. The atmosphere on campus is nice, but I just decided that the atmosphere in the city center was more me. I live next to the Jumbo. I live next to the Oude Markt, so everything is close. And I'm living with roommates who are all at the same associations. So we really have that connection, and that's why I really like living in the city.
And for you, Akash, in short?
For me, most of the things as an international student, firstly, the proximity to class. So I don't have to bike a lot to class in the morning, which is a good thing because I'm a lazy person. So that's one thing. The other thing is, apart from academics, there are a lot of sports activities on campus which are offered by the university. So we have a sports centrum and the sports center, which offers a lot of sports from basketball to rowing to CrossFit. So that's a lot of fun. And the third part, which is also important, is that I'm in access with the campus physician. So now more than ever, in times of crisis, it's an easy access to just walk over to the physician if I'm not well, or if I'm, especially now because of the corona scare. So that's also a good thing when you're staying on campus, because the campus has its own exclusive UT physician who you can approach to when you have problems.
Last question, Leonie. How does the university help national or international students find housing, for instance?
Yes. The University of Twente guarantees to offer housing to non-EU students, because we feel that if you are from very far away, from outside of Europe, it's especially difficult to find a place here. So those students, so the non-EU students, will be approached through email, and they will be showed how to access this offer. And all the other students, if you go to the UT website, if you just Google housing or accommodation, you can find a lot of information. And we also have a handbook which explains students how they can find housing. And there's many different housing or organizations that offer housing in Enschede and around Enschede.
All right, so all information available on the website and of course in the chat rooms today. That's it for this segment. Thank you all very much. We'll be back very soon. Thank you for watching this segment. Next, Life as a Student. We'll be back in a few moments. Welcome back to the segment Life as a Student. And our guests at this moment are Marijke, Merel and Lieke.
Yeah, just before we spoke about our educational model and how it helps you to discover what you're good at, the three roles, the organizer, the researcher or the entrepreneur. But it also, one of the pillars is also the multidisciplinary approach. Can you give us an example, Lieke?
Well, yes, I've done one project during my student time where we work together. Myself, I'm a civil engineering student, but we work together with industrial engineering management and applied mathematics. And there was one module in which we had to collaborate and do different aspects of a project together. So at the beginning, we as civil engineering students had to do things with models about traffic, and applied mathematicians, they had to do the calculations for the whole project was about a hospital and the flows that went in and out of the hospital, and just all our disciplines together, they formed the project, which was really nice because you could really see how one study could help the other study in a different part of what you were trying to get at.
And which of those roles in the education model was most natural to you? Are you mostly a researcher or an organizer or an entrepreneur?
I think I'm mostly an organizer. So what was the goal also during the project was to find an effective way to work together, because you all had different kinds of working which you are used to, but you have to combine all those to work together effectively, because you have quite a big project group when you work with 3 studies. Mm-hmm. So it was quite cool to really get to see those different types of people and how they are from their study working.
Okay. And Merel, you also stepped out of your comfort zone, I think, when joining the SOLA team, because you did something completely different than you perhaps
Yes, definitely.
Before.
Yeah, I was in the 3rd year of my bachelor when I decided I wanted to do a big project, a real challenge. And it was mostly driven because in a university project you learn a lot, but you always deliver a semi-product. So you deliver a report or a prototype. And I really wanted to do a project where you go from the beginning until the end and finish something, and you can be really proud at the end that you finished something. So we built with our team in 1.5 years a solar car, which was probably the most efficient solar car in the world at that point. And that's something I can be really proud of. And I'm really happy I took that step, even though, of course, I didn't study for a while. But I took that step back to actually go into another direction and learn something entirely different. And the university was really supportive of it, because they really like it if students be active in such a way, and they support all these kinds of teams. Or like you're doing a board year, right? Yes. They really support that you do those kind of things besides your study.
And you went to Australia with the solar car, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yes, we raced through the desert of Australia to really prove that our solar car is a real, profitable way of transportation.
There's loads of questions for you, I just heard. So we're going to the chat room for a short update. Mirna, how are you doing?
We're still doing fine, thank you.
Good.
Lots of questions going on. Lots of interaction, I have to say.
Nice.
So that's really nice.
Good. Do you have any questions for our current panel members?
Let me check. I got a question. Is it realistic to complete your bachelor's degree within the set amount of time, so 3 years?
Okay. Who would like to respond?
I think it is, definitely is, but of course if you choose, like me or Lieke, you choose to do a board year or student team that is full-time, you of course don't finish in 3 years, because you say, okay, I'm going to take a year extra and do something else instead.
Yeah.
But if you don't do that, you can easily finish within 3 years, even with doing part-time committees or part-time boards next to it if you want as well.
And Marijke, what if we see a student struggling with his study, or maybe having made the wrong choice, or what do we do then?
Well, I mean, the good news is that there's a lot of support available for students. Every program has a study advisor and also often mentors who are like second or third year students trying to help their fellow students. And also on a central level, a lot of support is available. So we keep track of the students. We're a relatively small university. So I used to work I used to be study advisor in chemical engineering, and I knew all my students by name. So of course, I wouldn't notice if Lieke was my student, I wouldn't know if you went to a lecture yesterday or not. But I would keep track of people's grades and invite them for a meeting every now and then. Try to keep my door open as much as possible so that students feel free to ask questions. Because if you're a student, it means that you're like over 18. You're an adult now, so you also have your own responsibilities. So if you have a question or a problem, please come find us, we'll help you.
So if there's something going on, you have to share it with your study advisor.
Well, have to. I mean,
if you need help.
That's the thing, it's your choice. But, but if you want help, it's always available.
Lieke, do you experience a pressure time-wise now that you've taken a board year?
Well, not really, because I wanted to do a board year really because of what I wanted to do with it. I wanted to learn, I wanted to form a bond with other people in the board, I wanted to help the association grow. And with those reasons to do a board year, you really think about it and you know that you are going to take a year off. So it's not really pressure that you're not finishing in 3 years. And what I've done before is I've done multiple committees for the study association. So I've been quite active there, and that was all besides my study, and that's easily possible with still managing to score sufficient on all your subjects. So
does the university as an organization understand that you are shaping yourself more fully as an academic professional for the future? That they give you the time to focus on this?
Yes, there's also, if it's a really time-consuming committee, then you also can get an extended deadline, for example. They really think with you on that part.
Okay, let's see if there's more questions in the chat room.
First of all, a short update, because I did see a lot of questions recently coming in about the fact if you can actually finish your studies within the set amount of time. I do think it's important to point out that if you are not able to finish, then you will still pay tuition fee afterwards. So that's really important to keep in mind, because it's that's not something that maybe comes up as naturally, perhaps.
Thank you.
Yeah, and besides that, I would also like to point out we've had the question several times whether this video can actually be watched after the recording has stopped. And I'm happy to say that it's possible to rewatch the entire show. So that's also good to point out.
Great. Any more questions from the viewers at this point?
Yeah, we get a question that's specific to industrial engineering, but maybe also in a broader sense what would be good to address. So how many students are accepted into industrial engineering, or perhaps just how many students are accepted to each bachelor program?
Numbers again.
Yes, is there a uniform answer?
I cannot answer the question as to the exact numbers for industrial engineering, but what I can say in terms of the bachelor is that most programs don't select. And this is because of the system that we have in the Netherlands, where everybody that meets the criteria, everyone who gets the diploma with the right subjects, because of course, if you want to study civil engineering, then you need to have done mathematics in high school. But it doesn't matter whether you got a 6 or a 9. So in that sense, we don't select. Everyone who meets the criteria is admitted. So there's very few programs that actually have, what's the word that I'm looking for, where you only admit up to a certain threshold. So that's technical medicine and psychology, I think, but all the rest, if you meet the criteria, you're admitted.
And so then is time a strong factor? Do you have to apply as soon as you can?
Of course, you have to apply by the admission deadlines, which were discussed, I think, in one of the earlier rounds. You have to make sure that you meet the criteria by that time.
Right.
And of course, to be here on time.
We have another question.
I think students are picking up on the fact that we have quite a lot of engineering programs. So one of the questions that we got is, what is the boy-girl ratio at the university?
At this table, it's quite high today.
No, I think it differs per program, and I cannot really say the exact numbers, but it's quite even, I would say. So if you look over in general, there might be slightly more boys, but it's not really it's not
a standard technical university.
No,
then.
no. But I'm not sure, but I think it has to do with sort of our high-tech human touch idea. We always say we want to give a human touch to our technology, and for me, at least as a girl, it was something I really liked because I wanted to connect it. And I think you see in, for example, the civil engineering program, I think you have half girls or maybe even more.
No, we
do
not. No, we have more boys than girls, but the amount of girls is growing.
So do you have a percentage?
Well, maybe an indication. When I started a couple of years ago, we were with about 10 to 12 girls, and this year there were over 25, 32 maybe.
Nice.
Yeah, so it really is growing.
Yeah, so soon it will be Who Run the World? Girls. Yes, Marijke, anything to add? Here, what do you see? Because you see all the programs, of course.
Yeah, I work in the Faculty of Science and Technology, which has programs such as applied physics, chemical engineering, biomedical engineering. And in chemical engineering, it used to be 80-20, so 80% boys. But for example, in biomedical engineering, which is also very technical, but more health related, there's a much better, I would say, balance.
Nice. Any more questions from the chat room?
Sorry, you caught me by surprise.
Sorry.
That's fine.
You're very busy.
I was just looking at one of the questions, actually, and I wanted to point it out to you guys. So one of the questions is, how much of a divide is there between international and Dutch students? Like, do they click together? Like, do Dutch students click together? Or have you, as Dutch students, perhaps also have international friends?
Who wants to?
Well, I can say something about that, because I have experienced that sometimes there are bigger groups of people from the same nationality that come here, and they tend to, mostly international students tend to stick together if they're from the same country. But I also know a lot of students that are international that do not come with a bigger group of people that they already know, that they tend to blend in really well with Dutch students, because Dutch students are, in my experience at least, quite open to start a conversation and to interact with international people.
And of course, there's a bit of a split between the classroom and your social life, right? In the classroom, everything is in English. And especially if you're an international program, you're definitely doing an English program. And you work together in project groups. And there, it's very natural to mix and mingle. And in your social life, it's a bit dependent on how much you search for it, of course. So I'm in a dancing association, and we also teach English lessons. And there, everything just really nicely blends. So it is a bit dependent on if you are open, indeed, like you said, if you're open to mix. But in general, people tend to be.
And do high school students need to be scared of the fact that we speak English a lot? Is that difficult?
Well, I don't really think so, because you pick up really quickly. And if you're going to do a course here at the UT and you come from high school, you don't know any of the terms anyway. So if you learn them in Dutch or if you learn them in English, it doesn't really matter. It's just that you have to get used to social talk and doing it all day. But I would say after 2 or 3 months, you're completely used to it.
So academically, it's an advantage because you don't have to translate it later on.
Yeah, that's true. I'd like to add. I mean, a lot of our programs are technical, so the people that are good at mathematics and physics in high school are not typically the people that are also good at languages. So I know some people are worried, but it's good to know that we teach in English. We don't teach English. So in a sense, if you write an exam and you make mistakes, you're not assessed on that. So as long as your answer is correct and we understand what you mean, then it's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and do you think that being on such a campus where everybody works and studies and lives together and plays sports, and does that help in mingling more with
really
internationals?
think so. Really, yeah. My first year, for example, I lived with a lot of international students in my house. And I learned so much, just for example, by cooking and eating together every day. I learned so many new things, and I was just flabbergasted almost every other day because I learned something new. And that interaction, if you're put in that situation, it becomes so natural. And now, after a few years, I'm so used to it, I'm not really thinking about it anymore. And if people ask me, I'm like, well, yeah, it's normal, right? But if I go back to my first year, I was really amazed by it. And it's so... if you're open, like we said, if you're open to it, it's so easy to connect, and it's so easy to learn from everyone's perspectives. I think
you have both lived in different places in the Netherlands. You have both traveled quite a lot, and both you consciously picked Enschede as a place to live and learn. What made you decide to choose this relatively small university, relatively small city?
Yeah, well, for me, I come from Rotterdam, so it's quite far away. But I came here on the open day, and the whole environment, the people, they were all so friendly and so personal. When you talk to someone, it's on a first-name basis. I think that may have been said before, but it really is that way.
Yeah.
And you can just so easily get in touch with a professor or anyone you want to seek help from. If you have a question about your studies, but also if you have a question about personal stuff, like, for example, the study advisor is very easy to talk to someone. And like that personal approach that really spoke to me, and just, yeah, the Dutch word is gezelligheid, and that's what I felt here and not really in other parts of the Netherlands.
Is that recognizable to you? Yeah.
Like for my open day, I was really amazed by that students and professors and teachers are somewhat on the same level. Of course, they have different knowledge level, but they are not seen as a hierarchy. They're seen as equal people. And back in the day, we had this huge presentation for first years in a sports center, and it was given by 2 students, not by the dean, not by the rector, just by 2 students. And I was just sitting there, and it was my 6th open day, and I was like, why aren't they putting the most important person there? But they
are.
Yeah, they are, yeah.
Just like we are doing right
exactly.
now.
But
yes.
That time I thought it was normal to put forward your highest ranked person organization. But here they said, no, it's the students who, if the students are happy, they will tell it to new students. And that was what we want. We don't want to, put someone up there who's not on the same mindset as those students we want to attract. And I was just amazed by it. And I was like, well, if this is how you deal with students, and if this is the amount of responsibility you give to them, I like that. I want that.
Yes. Do you also like your life here?
Yeah, I love it.
What do you like about it, living in this area?
It's just really different than what I'm used to. And
in what sense?
Well, I don't know if you experience the same, but it's with students and you're with people from your own age, basically only. Like, I think, it's weird to say, but I barely see children or elderly people except for my grandparents, because you're just with all people in the same phases of your life. And that makes it,
Actually, I have something to say about this. From the start of the quarantine onward, I've been at my student home, and I have not actually visited my parents yet. And it's just, it feels natural and it feels all right, because we have so much fun together. We live with 7 and we're just quarantining together.
You're like family?
Yeah, basically, yes.
Great. Well, there's nothing left to say then. Let's end this segment. Thank you so much for your contributions. Next, More Than an Agree, and just give us a few minutes and we'll be right back. Thank you. Welcome back. This is a segment More Than a Degree, and we have two guests, Matthijs and Jorik.
And speaking about More Than a Degree, Matthijs, you're a board member from the Student Union, and that means that you're in charge or helping out all the associations that the University of Twente has. Can you tell us something about that?
Yeah, we indeed help the associations the UT has. We have more than 100 student-run organizations at the UT. Sports associations, business associations, culture, and so on. There are multiple sectors. And the Student Union helps them out by giving them reimbursements or arranging the reimbursements, because you sometimes are taking a gap year actually from your study program to devote on your board year. And of course you want your tuition fee back then because you're not using the education that year. So that's what we are arranging for the students. Next to that, we also arrange the board trainings because doing a board year or a committee or being in some kind of role next to your studies also is a great learning experience. And we want to make sure that students get everything out of it by being trained. And next to that, we also arrange the recognitions of associations. So if a student wants to organize a new association, he or she can get it recognized at the Student Union also.
And I can imagine that not all students want to do a board year, but still want to be active in some way. What kind of associations are there? What associations can they join? Which associations?
Yeah, it's important to know that being active next to your studies is not obligated. You can do it, or you can just say, I don't want that, I focus on my studies or something else. That's all fine. And students can join any association and do anything they like there. They can join an activity once in their whole student career, but they can also become a full-time board member and devote 40 hours a week on it.
Is it all about sports and performing arts, or are there more other kinds of associations?
Yeah, we have sports, performing arts, we have study. That is linked to the study program a student is studying. Student, which is more for relaxation, socializing. And we have other, and that's, multiple different associations are part of that. Also, for example, an investor club. And then we have one for world sector, in which all kinds of world associations are recognized. For example, the Asian or the Indian Student Association.
We have a question from the chat room.
Yeah, so students are wondering about what does the social life at the university look like? So you already mentioned some things, but maybe you can elaborate a little bit on it.
Yes.
Social life at the UT, yeah.
Without mentioning all the associations, what does your social life look like, and what do you enjoy here?
What I mostly enjoy is that the university is more than only the place where you go for your lectures. It's also a place where you hang out with friends and do something after your lectures, where you meet people who are important for your network, for your later career, but also for having fun at your student life. You can do all kinds of things next to your studies.
What do you do for fun? That's absolutely useless for your career.
Useless?
Yes.
Well, I think at the end everything can be useful, but I do BMX racing a lot, cycling. I hang out with friends quite often. Right now it's a bit different, of course, but usually I go to cinema and stuff. I also was part of the Euros Rowing Association in 2016, already some time ago. And I'm part of a board, so I'm working 40 hours with my 5 fellow board members, and every now and then we also go to a restaurant or a pub or to a party. Yeah.
Wow. Jorik, what does your social life look like?
Social life? Well, right now, as with many people, it's a bit on the down low.
Yes.
But normally it would also be going out with friends and having fancy barbecues and stuff like that, going on boat trips. As for normal life, would be going on a run sometimes, but mostly also sometimes relaxing after studies. Playing video games. You can basically do whatever you want.
I'm amazed that you even have free time left, because you are a master student.
And my professors don't like that I use whatever time I have left on video games, but that's between me and them.
Now, I can imagine, because you are not only a master's student, you're also an entrepreneur.
Yes, yes.
Which started during your master or your bachelor studies.
Yeah.
What did you do?
In my bachelor study, me and a couple of other students, we started a beer brewery where people can customize their own beer recipes on our own website, after which we go and brew those recipes. That's a new idea, and so we needed help from the university to actually make that happen. And we joined a business competition, the UT Challenge, in which we won multiple awards for our idea, and then we used the prize money of the UT Challenge to buy multiple brewing kettles, which we now still use in our own brewery. And the brewery is also located on the university, so in an old kitchen. You will have a wall, and on one side of the wall you will have people studying for their next exam, and on the other side of the wall there's us messing around with, hops and grains and kettles. And
Only they knew.
If only they knew. Now, most people don't actually know it.
So how does the university help you in your entrepreneurship?
Well, there's multiple organizations within the UT that help you to really define your business proposition that you want to work on. For example, you have Novelty, which is a bureau where you can go and have lots of people advise you on your business idea,
And it
from
is
finance to
located,
legal.
Novelty is located on campus, right?
Yes, it's also located on campus, like 100 meters from where we are now. And of course, there's also a business startup incubator, as they're called, which is the Incubase, which was set up with help of the student union in the last year. Unfortunately, both of those are kind of closed down right now due to the coronavirus, but surely they will start up afterwards again.
So you're very successful, you won awards, you're getting help, you have your bachelor's degree, so now you're a full-time entrepreneur.
If only. Right now the company isn't financially stable enough for me to be able to support myself just by brewing beers, but otherwise I would definitely do that. But that's why I've also decided to continue with my master's studies, because it helps me to expand my vision of the company also, of course.
Nice.
Yeah.
What do you hope to learn in your master's studies?
Mostly how to make my company more efficient, which is definitely going to be useful.
Okay. We have a question for Matthijs from the chat room.
Yeah, I think Matthijs at some point mentioned something along the lines of a business association. So someone is asking, what is a business association and can a psychology student join one?
Yeah, it's maybe nice to know that I am a psychology student myself, or at least I was. I did a bachelor in it, and I could potentially join every association actually. We, for example, have Uni Partners, which is an association doing some consultancy work for companies. We have Hive01, which is an entrepreneurial program for students. I also joined it in 2018, and it was just open for everyone to join.
So it's also a great way to meet people with different disciplines and different backgrounds.
Yeah, it doesn't matter which study program you do and what your age is and what your nationality is and so on. There's also Integrant, for example, which is helping you with building your CV, your motivation letter, and also giving professional trainings. And that's also open for everyone. Their services are just open to make use of, but you can also join the board. So it is indeed open for psychology students as well. Yeah, for sure.
So it's about professional but also personal development.
Yeah.
Joining associations, or at least be active in whatever kind of way.
Yeah, your study program offers a big load of courses which help you getting skills or obtaining skills. But some skills are easier or better to learn outside the study program in practice. If you set up your startup, for example, you have to learn so many skills which you maybe won't learn during a course about psychology or about technical medicine. So then being active next to your studies can be of great value. Yeah.
And that's the end of this segment. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Next is After Your Studies. We'll be back in a few minutes. Thank you.
done that.
Welcome back. This is the segment After Your Studies. We have two guests, Ariane and Ellen.
Yeah, and after your studies, when you become a graduate, our UT graduates become part of our alumni network. Can you explain something about that, Ariane?
Of course. Let's put it this way. Life doesn't stop when you graduate. It begins. Next phase in your life, of course. We don't let go of you, especially preferably not actually. We offer a lot of possibilities for our alumni to keep in touch with each other, but also to keep in touch with the University of Twente. And furthermore, we also offer alumni a lot of possibilities for career development, personal development, and networking.
And I've heard that we have quite a lot alumni. How many do we have?
Well, yes, you are correct. We have a lot of students right now studying, so that implies that we have a lot of graduates. We have over 51,000 alumni living all over the world.
Oh, wow. And someone famous?
Of course. Well, the inventor of something we use every day, he studied here. It's Wi-Fi, so that inventor. Also the inventor of Bluetooth studied here. Our Minister of Defense, Ank Bijleveld, she studied here. And the founders of very important, for students, takeaway.com.
I heard that we also have someone at Lego company in Denmark. He is, I think, a head designer or something.
Yeah.
That really was his dream job. How amazing is that?
Yes.
Yeah.
And even cool is that he could share his story with our students, because last week we offered a webinar with him for students so they could ask their questions about his career development.
Is that a regular thing that alumni are able to help current students, or was it just because of the webinar?
We offer that a lot, so we try to keep that connection as close as possible. We also think that's very important because, as you can imagine, if you have studied here, you know what's been taught. But if you are working, you also know what's necessary and what's needed in your current job. So our alumni are a very important way of feedback for our study programs. And of course, we want to have students interacting with people in the working field so they know what's it going to be like to be working.
We have a question actually about working, if I understand it correctly. We go to Mirna.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, there are some questions coming in about internships during your study and how likely is it to find a job during your study. So maybe in that sense, you could talk a little bit about the connection that we have with companies in the surrounding area.
Yes. Well, you quite recently graduated.
Yes.
2016?
Yes.
You remember what it was like as a student?
The day of yesterday.
Yes. Okay.
Well, I think Mirna already said it. We have internships during your studies, so you can do electives, but you can also do an internship. And of course, we as Alumni Office try to help students find internships at companies where alumni work. You could also think of doing your thesis for a company, so you have your last bit of research before you can graduate. And we also connect students with companies. But I think companies in the region and the contact, you can talk a bit more about that.
Yes, Ellen, you're a brand manager for the region Twente.
Yes.
How about those companies, these internships? Do students have to go to Eindhoven or Amsterdam to have a good internship, or can they do well in this area?
Of course not. We have about 3,000 high-tech companies here in Twente, so that's a lot. So there are enough internships. But we also have a lot of initiatives to bring talent and business together. I think about 70 initiatives. And one of them is, for example, Talent IT. Talent IT is an initiative where students can get a bijbaan. I don't know the English word for it.
Yeah. Part-time job or side
part-time job next to their study to work in an ICT company. So, and there are a lot more initiatives where you can combine your study with work.
And what about after their studies? How are the job opportunities in this region?
Well, that's of course likewise the same. When you can do it during your study, companies are very welcome you to help them, and then you get to know the companies. So after your studies, you can go further on. It's also so that a lot of companies are part of an ecosystem that will be that you don't have to be just in that company and that's the end of your career. No, you can jump to another company because on a lot of teams, companies work together, do partnerships, and so you'll be able to work everywhere.
After you graduated personally, you moved to Amsterdam to work for years in the West and later went to Twente.
Yeah.
Is that what you would have done with the knowledge that you have now about the opportunities in the area?
Well, that depends on what you expect from your work or your life. At that time, I like to be in a bigger city. I think I don't want to live at this time in Amsterdam. It's too crowded. But 20 years ago, it was not like that. And in my experience, it was that working there brings me back with a lot of baggage and to help people and companies here in Twente. So that's a good combination. But when I'm a student, when I should be a student right now, I think I should choose at the beginning for the best of both worlds. And I think it's Twente because you have air, you're breathing here. There's a lot of space and a lot of companies where you're able to run very, very fast to do whatever you like to do.
Yeah.
During this COVID-19 situation that we are facing right now, we saw a lot of companies from this region. We saw them in the news because
that's true. It's a very nice example of that ecosystem I was talking about.
Yeah.
Twente fights Corona. We have seen that the past 2 months. I wasn't aware of it, but every week we were in the news, and every week there was a different company. If it's an application builder, it was a testing company and on micro liquids. At the beginning, it were the how do you call them? The apparatuur from Demcon. So at every stage of Corona, you see companies in Twente who are fighting together and or joining together and fight Corona. Yes. I'm very proud of it.
I think it's very funny because I speak a lot of alumni who also moved for the West because they thought they could find a job there easily or a better job at a better company. So I have to defend myself actually quite often that I consciously stayed in Twente to work here. And I think it's a misconception that if you stay here, you get a lame job at a lame company.
But maybe a personal thing as well. Maybe they just don't know about all the companies. Yeah. We understand from a lot of conversations that we had this day is that a lot of companies are really trying to recruit students while they're still studying. Even companies moving to Enschede, moving to even across the university to be as close to the students as they can, so they can pull them in.
Yeah.
So there's opportunities everywhere.
A nice example, I don't know if it has already been mentioned, is the Bedrijvendagen. It's a big career event, the biggest one in the Netherlands that's organized every year by students, solely by students, where over 1,000 companies come here to talk about their job opportunities.
Yeah. But I also think there's another thing when you choose to work and stay in Twente. It's the typical way of entrepreneurship in Twente. The companies are more impact-based companies to do more smart impact and not only making money. And I think 20, 30 years ago, a long time ago, in my time maybe, it was another way of thinking. People wanted to make a career and go fast and make a lot of money. I think in this next generation is not like that. They want to do something relevant, they want to do something conscious and make impact. And I think also in that way, Twente offers a lot, which is not happening in Amsterdam and certainly not in Silicon Valley.
But right here with high-tech human touch, right? Yes. Okay, we have one final update from the chat room. Mirna.
Yeah, things are wrapping up here as well. I can see that there are less questions coming in, but that's not a bad thing, of course. So to wrap it up a little bit, we've had over 200 people in the chat at any point. And people were joining us from all over the world, really. I've had people from Belarus, Kazakhstan, Ethiopia, Russia, Turkey, but of course also the Netherlands and Germany. So that's been really nice to see. It's good to point out that in the follow-up email, everybody who's registered will receive a link to rewatch the entire show. So for those who were not able to watch the full thing, or would like to rewatch it at their own leisure, that's definitely going to be a possibility. And if you'll allow me, I would like to close my part of the wrap-up with a question that we've received, which is about working as an international in the Netherlands, and how easy is it to find a job as an international student, perhaps here in the region or in the Netherlands?
Thank you. Ellen?
Yes, I think it's going better in that way. Of course, we all speak English and every language, but we also have an expert center here in the Netherlands, but also in Twente. This expert center guides you to get work here and find a job, but also with all your papers and documents. So it's an easy landing here in Twente.
Anything last to add?
Yeah, you have a search year in which you have 1 year to you have a special visa to search for a job here in the Netherlands, and it's for a year, so you can
After
stay.
graduation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
And of course, as University of Twente, we also try to help you with finding a job, and we have many possibilities to do so.
So, well, thank you. And thank you all for watching. This was today's bachelor's program. As Mirna already mentioned, go to the website. You will receive an email with a link to rewatch the entire show. On our website, we also have all kinds of files with more in-depth information on the topics that we were discussing. Please join or sign up for another Skype session if you want to speak to students a bit more. You can do that, I think, from tomorrow on. Thank you for watching, and we hope to see you in September.
From a stranger to a friend, we'll come together, together. We'll light up. The power's in our minds, we're gonna light up. Oh, we'll light up. The winds of change will roar, our spirits start to soar. The world is in our sights, 100,000 sparks ignite. The future's up to us, and every dream we touch. The world is in our sights, 100,000 sparks ignite. They'll guide us. The path that we designed, they're gonna guide us. Guide us. They'll rise up. Innovation will arise. They're gonna rise up. Oh, they'll rise up. The winds of change will roar. Our spirits start to soar. The world is in our sights. 100,000 sparks ignite. The future's up to us, and every dream we touch. The world is in our sights. 100,000 sparks ignite. We don't play around.
Sorry guys, sorry.
We grew up with the future that's in our hands. Innovated new crafts, taking over day by day. When we go hard. When we go, you know that we're going hard. When we go, there's no stop. We go hard. We're 100,000 sparks. The winds of change will